Do you want your judge being the landlord for the person he appoints to represent your children in a divorce?
Or the person that's opposing you in your divorce.
Yep.
Can't make it up.
Yeah, I mean, yes, no, maybe so. Absolutely not. How is this not a conflict? Y'all, we uncovered that Brian Gatewood is the owner of the building that regularly appointed GAL FOC Jim Murphy is currently the tenant of, right?
Yep, we did. And we were, I mean, the funny thing is it's something that I knew and had never just put, I knew who owned the building. I knew that Murphy was in the building, but I never put those two things together because I used to be next door to that building.
Yeah.
But it just didn't, that part never occurred to me because actually I don't know why. Oh, because when he moved over there, Gatewood, I believe, was not on the bench. That's why. So he moved over there, and so what? You have one attorney being a landlord for another. That's not
Super
necessarily
common.
super common.
I don't really think, though, that those attorneys should be taking cases against each other, but it's not uncommon at all for attorneys to own real estate and rent it out. I mean, I do.
Yeah. No, I mean, that I don't. That's a different thing, and I think that once Judge Gatewood took the bench, it just I never thought again about his building or that Murphy was over there because I think I had been moved out of that building and was already on a different part of town. My office was in a different part of town for years by the time that happened. So,
And for context, Jim Murphy is the person appointed on the Adair versus Emberton case, which we have people literally in Florida, California, New York.
Louisiana.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Louisiana. We have followers there, but I don't know. But we have people quoting Adair versus Emberton, which y'all know was Hugh's case, where the Court of Appeals issued a scathing opinion of how court was handled.
In Gatewood's court.
Judge Gatewood's courtroom.
With Jim Murphy, his tenant.
Yep.
Yep.
And so Jim Murphy gets a lot of appointments from a lot of different judges, but he makes a significant amount of money off of Gatewood appointments. He has to.
Yes. And Gatewood is in charge of making people pay Jim Murphy's fees.
Mhm.
So one of the things as we were looking into this, and I know that you posted some things on social media asking questions about whether this would be prohibited or not. And in our investigation, we found, I believe from 1980 or somewhere around 1980, there was an ethics opinion about judges renting to attorneys. Now, it doesn't explicitly say attorneys that practice before them. I think it's assumed, even though it doesn't say, but it says that it's a routine enough transaction, just the monthly deposit of rent with the landlord, that it doesn't create any conflict of interest.
You got to think, though, 1980, I mean, we don't even have family court. I mean, literally, like family court doesn't exist.
Yeah, so what we know is that could not have contemplated that the tenant in that circumstance was appointed regularly by the judge and making money off of those appointments. That is a totally different layer of interaction and financial interaction that did not exist in that other ethical opinion. And
not at all. I mean, this is a scenario where the judge/landlord has the ability to appoint the tenant and get the tenant enough money to pay rent directly back to the judge. I mean, if this is not a problem, what is a problem?
No, I agree. It's also more, complicated by the fact that you are granting this attorney limited immunity in those circumstances where you were appointing them. This person was also was it a campaign manager for the judge or was involved in the campaign?
I think so on KREF, and we will have to share that information. And there's also even another layer to this. So you've got a potential where the tenant/lawyer is the GAL appointed for the child. So comes with quasi-judicial immunity and is an attorney. Then you've got a case where Jim Murphy, the tenant, could just be an attorney for either a husband or wife, soon to be ex-husband or wife, right?
Yep. And immediately after your social media post, people reached out and said, oh, he's the opposing counsel in my case in that court.
We saw it on Monday. Actually, we didn't. I stayed. I went and saw it on Monday where he was opposing counsel. And literally, oh my gosh, y'all, I forgot about this. I was so traumatized from the mom being incarcerated. Dude, I forgot to even tell you this. So calls a case. First off, Jim's talking away, not listening to anything, which whatever, that happens. And he says, Mr. Murphy, are you the GAL or the FOC on this case? Which is everyone in this room's pet peeve. And then Jim's like, oh, okay, sorry, I missed it. And Jim was actually just the attorney. Wasn't even appointed as a GAL or
So
FOC.
they were talking about the case, and Jim was not even paying attention, and he's the actual counsel on the case.
Yeah. And the judge was like, are you FOC or GAL? Just assumes because, hey, I appoint you so much.
Yeah.
And I was just like, is this real life? But a really big point, another problem is that when Jim is an FOC, that means that he's a fact witness that's testifying, and it's the judge's responsibility to really ascertain veracity for truthfulness, all of those things. And they have a financial relationship. But think about it like this. Think about if Karen Reed murder trial, if an expert witness was testifying and that expert witness was a tenant of the judge.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't think if that came out later and wasn't disclosed, that wouldn't be grounds for mistrial or some other problem? So that is you're correct. That's an additional layer that didn't exist in the factual scenario that was contemplated by that 1980 or thereabouts Judicial Ethics Committee opinion that talked about the routine transaction of a tenant and a landlord. They were not contemplating that attorney was not only practicing in front of the judge, but could be a material witness, a court-appointed expert type witness in front of that judge on a regular basis. Not to mention, if the parties do not pay the FOC or GAL, who gets to punish the parties for not paying and make them pay and potentially issue orders garnishing wages or bank accounts to make them pay this tenant? It's the judge.
Right. So the judge has a financial interest in appointing Jim Murphy to all the cases. And guarantees his rent gets paid.
Yeah. I mean, he actually has an interest in things that he rules on, like motions from Jim Murphy to make people pay his fees.
Yes.
That is not something. And in fact, the ethics opinion that basically says judges can rent to attorneys points out that those kinds of entanglements don't exist, and that's why it's okay. But under these circumstances, you actually have a judge being in charge of money going to the attorney as income that then comes back to the judge as rent directly.
Which in and of itself is truly insane. It's not been disclosed to anyone in any case ever that I've heard of. I had an attorney stop me in court and be like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it, No,
it is true. So there are times, especially, I mean, the smaller the town, the smaller the jurisdiction, judges know a family or know people. And I've practiced in so many cases where a judge will say, look, I grew up, our families were close. I don't really know these parties, but I just need to disclose that and see if you or your client is uncomfortable with that. And you have to say, Judge, I'll check. I appreciate you letting me know about that. And most of the time, you're like, well, I mean, you're telling me you don't really know anything about these people. And, you just move forward with it, but it gets disclosed and it's right there. And, to the extent that if your client, as an attorney, if your client had found out about that in the middle of things that had not been disclosed, then that causes a problem.
Yeah.
But the fact that the judge brought it up and said it usually puts everyone's mind to rest and you move forward.
Exactly.
I am not aware in any case that I know of that's ever been disclosed that I'm going to appoint this person to tell me basically what to do about your kids. And we know, watch the video from the Adair case that got overturned, that he allows Jim Murphy to come in as FOC, not being sworn in, and basically tell him what to do. And he writes it out and dictates what Jim Murphy says he needs to put into an order. I can't imagine what anyone would say if he said, oh, by the way, this person I'm going to appoint and basically tell me what to do is my tenant and apparently a good friend.
Yeah.
And people would not have a problem with that, and it wouldn't create the appearance of a conflict, an appearance of a problem that will require him to disqualify from the case.
Well, I don't know, one, how big is this office? I mean, how much is he paying in rent? Is it extraordinary? I don't know the answer to that.
I guess he could be renting it to him for free, and there's no financial entanglement.
That would be even worse.
That raises so many other questions. I agree, but
I don't know worse is the right thing to say in this capacity.
It would be a different problem in and of itself.
And on top of that, it's just the actual judge's registered agent on one of his LLCs is to that building.
Yeah.
It just feels a certain kind of way. And we had a flood of comments of people being like, oh my God, I'm involved in that court. And if they're pro se. And that's where, we don't ever want to give legal advice, but you had some people really panicking. And then I had other people in the comments being like, if you're pro se, don't mention it. They'll retaliate against you. Like Christine can say it, but you all can't say it.
We're not weighing in, by the way, on those issues. They're just popping up in the comments and people are talking about it. So we're aware that they are out there and how people feel about it and them being afraid to bring it up and say anything.
Yeah.
And I honestly, if I would, in Division 8 especially, but I remember as an attorney, if something came up and it came down to whether or not we would ask for disqualification in front of a judge, that is one where I would have been very afraid of retaliation if you ask and it's not granted.
Oh, in Gatewood's court?
Yes.
Gatewood was
I've experienced it.
borderline pleasant at motion hour.
Wow.
It was...
Wow.
Monday was a weird day, and I got my phone out because I actually want to pull up just for like a frame of reference. I mean, Brian Gatewood is the only judge in Louisville that does not release a weekly schedule. So, Brian, release a weekly schedule so we can see what you do all day. But for motion hour, I'm looking it up. But I want to say he had at least 3 cases on just on Monday, which is insane.
Murphy?
Jim Murphy.
Oh.
In Gatewood's courtroom.
Like being appointed or had cases where he was counsel?
Yeah.
Oh, all together.
All of the above.
He was involved in 3 at just one motion hour.
Yep. It looks like 2 or 3 in this one. And then one of them was a motion where Murphy is the FOC, and it was a motion for attorney's fees. Now, I don't know where the motion for attorney's fees, who was asking for fees, but like you said, the judge has the power to order with contempt. I mean, you could potentially go to jail if you don't pay.
And I say that because I've had circumstances where I've been appointed or people have asked me privately to be a GAL or an FOC on cases. And I think it might have been even before the roles were divided, like that long ago. But I remember having to file motions to make sure I got paid. And you knew the judge would always order that your fees were paid. They appointed you to do it, and they protect you, and they order fees to be paid. And I've seen circumstances where they still weren't paid and parties are held in contempt and punished for not paying the fees. So you've got a judge who has the power and exercises the power to make sure that the people appointed get paid, can lock people up, can levy their assets, bank accounts, things like that, to make sure that the FOC or GAL gets paid is also the same person that's making money off of renting to that attorney.
And this just goes to the whole notion of like it's one big club and you ain't in it. Like, I think you absolutely have a right. You're going to court. You're going through one of the worst times of your life. It's crazy making, right? Like getting a divorce is crazy making in and of itself. Divorce is one of the hardest things that people go through. It's like death and divorce or what, you know what I mean? There's like a saying. But you already are at a heightened sense of paranoia. When you get divorced, you are... it's a legal proceeding with someone that knows the good, the bad, the ugly about you. Like, it's different than a contract dispute. I mean, that can still be emotional, but like this is your significant other.
It's next,
or
next
this
level.
is like involving your children's lives. And, there's a heightened sense of, oh my gosh, like fear. And people will sell everything to protect their children. Mm-hmm. It's different than you could get screwed in a contract. You're not going to sell your house to keep fighting. You know what I mean? You're going to cut your losses. People don't cut their losses when it comes to their children.
How do you cut your losses when it comes to your kid?
But like there's a heightened sense of even like paranoia. And then to find out that your ex-husband's lawyer is renting from the judge, if that didn't make you crazy, you wouldn't be normal.
Yeah. How could you expect that there isn't some sort of improper conflict when that's happening? Mm-hmm. How in the world does any litigant, knowing that opposing counsel is a tenant of the judge and makes a significant portion of his living getting appointments from the judge, how is that not a conflict?
It's crazy. And it feeds into everything that we see online where it's family court is one big cabal. Family court is one big club. Family court is taking people's children. Family court is just making the lawyers rich. Like, why? How would people think differently if this is everything we've reported just in the last 3 or 4 episodes has
Yeah.
been like eye-opening
And all out of one county and one court. This is not, I mean,
in one day?
yeah. I mean, this is all stuff that, we spread these out, releasing them, but it's happening so much in this one small location. And of course we hear about it all over the place, but just I like you've said before, my eyes have been open to something that you were telling me early on that I just didn't see from my time as a litigant in the courts. But
Yeah, and they
looking at
don't.
it from the outside, how do you not have the feeling that everybody's in on it?
Yeah, and it's that in and of itself is enough to make somebody even crazier than they already are, right? Because you feel like the fix is in. And if you question anything, that's where it gets really weird in family court. Like, you're not allowed to ask questions. You know what I mean? Like, Judge, she's lying. You're going to go to jail. Judge, do you have a financial relationship with the opposing attorney? Ma'am, it would be met with such
Oh, man.
vitriol.
It would be, yeah. I'd like to see somebody have the balls to ask that question, see what the reaction would be.
Oh, I mean, and I think eventually somebody will. And then
Oh, it's a matter of time now.
Yeah. Then to all of the Louisville attorneys, why aren't you bringing that up on behalf of your client also?
Well, I mean, it's funny that we've heard lots of people knew that building was owned by Judge Gatewood or one of his LLCs. They knew Murphy was there, but just like me, they hadn't put those two facts together in any meaningful way. And
Yeah. Now
like,
they know.
I knew that, and I've known that for years. Now, I knew it from before Judge, just had no reason to think about that. But now people are like, oh, wow, I never thought about that.
Well, and that's also, you're in the role now. Like, we talked a lot on 2 or 3 podcasts ago, when we were in Judge Santry's courtroom. You said after the fact, like, this would have been normal to me, 6 months ago, but I'm really starting to look at it for how everybody perceives family court. And it was disturbing to see this, like, good old boy club, good old girl club. It's not a sexist thing, but just like one big club and you're not in it. And I cannot imagine the fear. We have got to, in my opinion. I don't know that there is any sort of quick fix and there's a shit ton of problems. But I think there needs to be a public defender's office or the equivalent for family court, because I don't know how pro se litigants, I would be shaking in my boots if I walked in and saw.
I agree. I mean, you are at risk of losing a fundamental right when you're dealing with your kids. And you're coming into this system, and as much as I hate to say it, it appears that it's every bit as bad and maybe worse than people talk about. How do you do that without an attorney? How do you do that without the guidance for someone to say, hey, by the way, this person's doing this and this person's doing that? You need to know all of those nuances to understand why you got locked up for just saying a few words in court, or why this happened. Or else it just seems like completely insane if you don't know what all's going on behind the scenes.
Right. But then also at the same time, there's that other layer where people are like, all of the attorneys are in on it together. And the attorneys, like the Judge Santry said, it's a small collaborative group or something like that, which lawyers shouldn't be. You shouldn't be describing lawyers in an adversarial proceeding as collaborative. I'm not saying that.
Or collaborative with the judges.
Yeah.
I mean, like Judge Ogden, this is what they mean by practicing law. We get to sit around and practice and have brainstorms about how to get from point A to point B. Really?
Right. These are children's lives. These are significant monetary issues. Family court is an absolute mess. And I want to be careful because, listen, first off, so I had something said to me pretty recently about what happened when I released a video about Judge Ogden and the baby case. And when you watch that case, like I've said many times on this podcast, I felt sick watching it. I do not believe that if that dad had left that day and gone and, God forbid, done something crazy, the judge did not give that dad any empathy in that moment whatsoever. And so I don't want to encourage anyone to go down, quote unquote, rabbit holes or get radicalized by what we're saying. But literally, we are just reporting on exactly what it is that the judges are doing. Did that make sense?
Yeah, well, so the way that I take that, and I think that you meant it, was that there are tons of conspiracies about this, and there are lots of crazy thoughts. We're trying to unravel it and say, no, it's really this simple
Yeah.
that there are rules to prevent this. This is where the rules are being violated and completely ignored.
Yep.
And that's how this is all interwoven. It's not some secret club with these meetings and the Illuminati's behind it. It's just, there are just very simple rules that prevent this stuff from happening that are being ignored. There are very important rights that the Constitution protects that are being ignored.
Yeah,
there are easy fixes for a lot of this.
I completely agree. And I think it goes back, I say this way too much, but judges are the new cops. The judiciary is the new policing system where, of course, you're going to have bad actors. You're going to have nefarious players in literally every profession, okay?
Yep.
And so there are nefarious people within family court systems, whether they be judges, attorneys, GALs, FOCs, court-appointed therapists. It's not all of them.
Yeah.
But the silence of all of them is the crux of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a problem that should be fixed only from people on the outside. And the more that we have people covering up or speaking out or dismissing, or let's name call and marginalize anyone that raises the concerns, or let's lock up the people that are raising the concerns, I think is working to make the system worse. And it's certainly not helping solve the problem and making the public perception of the system worse.
And being silent. So many of y'all are being silent on the issues that are happening within family court, and silence is violence. That's what y'all tweeted all the time during the BLM movements. That's what you said when you were out protesting. And if you believe that then, why don't you believe it now?
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I believed it then. I believe it now. But I mean, most family law practitioners are going to come face to face with this at some point. You're going to have a client that this happens to. Something gets violated, something happens, and you're going to have to file an appeal, and you're going to become more and more outspoken about it. And the more you practice, the more you're going to get to this point. Judges don't have to face that. The judges, their lives are easier. They're not going to have to, especially the ones that are actually doing a good job, aren't generally going to be affected day to day by the other judges that are doing these things. But it doesn't.
Oh, Hugh,
But they have the ability to affect change in a way that anyone from the outside or attorneys practicing in those courts don't have the ability to do.
Well, it's the right thing to do. Two, there is a wave of people that are looking for attorneys in Kentucky that when they call for a consult, they're mentioning us. They're asking the lawyer before they hire him, how do you feel about Kentucky, Christine, and Hugh, or the podcast, or people saying that? Because the people are watching, and they're listening to us. And so not only lawyers is there a moral obligation, in my opinion, an ethical obligation, but also it's going to start affecting you financially if you don't stand up and advocate on behalf of your client.
Yep.
And be careful, anyone listening too, there are some people that will speak very highly. There are people that will tell you on the initial consult, like, oh, I'm not scared of these judges, and oh, I'm going to protect your constitutional rights, and then kind of do the bait and switch. We have that in family court, and I can think of 3 right now, but I won't mention them. Can you? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying.
So it's just, be very careful when you're vetting your attorney, and we have some fabulous attorneys too in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And we have judges that are good.
No, there are judges I like. We just don't get a chance to talk about when judges do good things anymore. We were for a short period of time there, and then the shit show, reared its ugly head and had to become the focus again. And we'll get back to things that people are doing right and where things are working well.
Tell us all your good stories, judge-y.com. We want the good stories. We want the bad stories. We want the conflicts of interest. Judge-y.com. Y'all, when you're listening to this podcast, we are probably within days, short number of weeks to actually releasing the app, right? It's go time. We're going to let you judge the judges. I cannot wait for an update, and I cannot wait for y'all to see it.
Also, one other thing, I want to hear from the court system. We have a court administrator who refuses to speak with us. I would like, we have now specific things, not hypotheticals, not, gray areas. We have some real problems, things that are documented, things that have resulted in higher courts saying that the judges in Jefferson County are causing real problems and violating people's rights. And we're not, we heard, at least through the press, statements from the court administrator and some other people when one of the criminal district court judges was the circuit court from a criminal case was under scrutiny. Not hearing anything like that in family court. And I'd like to hear
McKay Chavan, we'd love to have you on. We'll make it very respectful.
Anyone else involved in there that has a different perspective on it and wants to talk about why things aren't broken, or what should why something shouldn't be done in some of these divisions to address some of these problems. I'd like to know why there's the silence, no statements, and nothing being done. Or if there are things being done, restore some public confidence and tell us that things are being done.
Absolutely. Judge-Y.com. Let's go.
Thanks, guys.
We need some justice. My life is fine, justice.
Content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be and should not be construed as legal advice. Engaging with this content does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and the hosts, guests, or their firms. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any law firm, company, or organization. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy, completeness, or applicability of the information presented. Any reliance on the information in this podcast is at your own risk. Laws are constantly changing, and every situation is unique. You should always seek the advice of a qualified attorney for your specific legal concerns.